First of all, thank you guys for adjusting your schedule on late notice. We obviously have finals, and we're still trying to adjust our schedule daily to accommodate these guys to hopefully performing well in the classroom. But we're excited for the week to dive into some self-scouting while preparing for an opponent, and also doing a deep dive in what's worked against us and what we've done well, and having some solutions, because once we get into Big Ten play, there's not a lot of practice time. You're traveling across the country, the games are sporadic, so it's tough to fall into a routine. So this is a big week for us to not let off the gas as we finish school, and really treat it as an opportunity to learn and grow and prepare ourselves for obviously a tough Big Ten slate.
After you looked at the game against Maryland, Yaxel's stat line seemed to come off as a pretty historic. Were there some other measurements that you guys used that popped out too? And did you put him on number 8 late? Was that his decision, your decision?
No, we switched 1 through 4, so there's a 25% chance he was going to be on number 8 anyway, and he had him some throughout the game. But no, he took on that challenge, and I thought it was a great sign of a mature group that is making great decisions on the fly. And even the other 3 guys who typically he has to switch with have to play off of him. And I thought it was a very, very intelligent basketball plays that he and his teammates did on the fly. We tried to adjust a little bit in the first half during possessions, and we picked up a foul by Merez, which put him on the bench. And so we went at halftime with the mindset that we've got to figure out a way to slow down Coit, and I thought Mara getting to the level of the screen and above was pretty effective, and the 3 guys behind him at the point guard did a nice job of playing 4. But overall, I thought late in the game when Yax just simply said, I'm not going to let him catch it, was probably the best way. And so it was like I said, a great decision by him to go for that.
With finals and then Christmas, I think it's like just these 2 games in like 3 weeks. From your experience, how do you handle that? How do you stay sharp but still maybe let the guys go home? I imagine a little bit.
Yeah, it's always tough as a mid-major coach or whatever we were. We tried to schedule the high majors just before Christmas and just after Christmas, and so we'll remind our guys that repeatedly that this is typically, and I don't have the math behind it, but it seems like this is when the most upsets happen, because the high major guys are usually looking forward to something other than the game. And so we challenged our guys today to use this week as not a coasting period, but championships are won on December 15th and 16th and 17th. They're not really won March 20th or whatever the day is of the Big Ten Tournament Championship, or when you clinch a Big Ten regular season championship. It's won throughout that process. So it's another, we have all these quizzes throughout the year. It's just another quiz. Can we handle this break with maturity? Can we show up and do what we're supposed to do against LaSalle and a coach that we're close friends with, that worked with, that they're going to be well coached, they're going to be excited to play. And so can we do that and work on ourselves is the quiz that we need to pass.
James?
Just, I guess at this point, just where do you feel like you're at with lineups, and who works who with best, and have the blowouts or the lopsided margins, has that made it easier, or has it made it more difficult as maybe like not knowing?
It's definitely skewed the numbers a little bit. But no, we found a lineup last game that we thought really clicked well for a number of reasons. And so obviously you don't always get to choose because of foul trouble, and if someone's playing really, really well, then they're going to play a little bit more. I thought we thought Yaxel and Elliott were clicking, so obviously they played more minutes than they typically do, and the margin certainly dictated that as well. But yeah, we're getting closer, but it's more about settling into the rotation, yes, but finding good offense and good defense with whatever lineup is out there, and that's a sign of a good team. When 5 guys can look at each other in a circle and figure out how do we create advantages on offense together, and then how do we get the things that are giving us problems stopped on the other end together as a group based on who we are and who they are.
I know we ask you when you guys are turning the ball over a lot, but you guys have been winning the turnover battle in a lot of these games as of late. I guess is there something you Is there a fix you guys feel you found, or I just, what can you tell me?
We threw a lot at the wall. I think that the things that really clicked are we're focused more on simply getting possession over position. I think sometimes we throw a pass, and if it wasn't gonna lead to the layup, we would almost like try to catch it and score it instead of just getting possession of the ball, and then even if we have to reset, that's fine. But no, I think it's more the guys are giving each other better spacing. And I told the staff this is the first time that I felt like we're playing really fast, but we were playing slow. And I think that's a sign of a really competent and potent offensive team. And now it's obviously against a young Maryland backcourt and a front line that hadn't played a lot together after Payne's injury. So it's all perspective, but I do think we're trying to generate offense together versus trying to make plays every time we touch it. Because if 5 guys are trying to make a play every time they touch it instead of generating advantages, then you're not going to look like a good offensive team. You're going to have to settle for hitting hard shots to beat teams, and we don't really want to have to settle for making low value shots to beat good teams.
Charles?
Yeah, it's clear that Elliott has a very unique way of seeing the floor. How does his vision and his past creativity kind of unlock things for his teammates and the offense as a whole?
He's special. I mean, his ability to manipulate the defense. I think even now he's just learning his teammates better. I mean, that's probably the most underrated part of all this is guys get used to hooping with other guys, and I think he's getting used to who likes it here, who wants it there. Also more familiar with our system. We played differently than he played the last couple of years. They have a very unique system that they score a lot of points and it's good ball. But ours is just different, and so I think a lot of it is just the guys are getting used to playing with each other, where we didn't have that prep time for a number of reasons. But I don't know if anyone in college basketball will ever have the stability where they just roll out a team with great continuity early in the season anyway. But I think these guys have done it as well as anyone, with especially factoring in we've only been here a year.
Brando and Jimmy Jackson said that when there were some teas in that game that I think they said the push was a point of emphasis by the refs. My question is, have there been some point of emphasis this year from the officials, and can you tell us what some of those are?
I'm sorry, so is a point of emphasis by the officials?
Yeah, well, there was the guy Washington got thrown out. I think it was just a little retaliation. Of course, there were 2 talking at the bench. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
I think the
emphasis.
demonstrative behaviors towards the bench, and we warned our guys. They said, hey, if you say something to the bench, they're going to get us back. It's just the way it is. Typically, if one team gets one later in the game, another team gets one. So I'll give our guys a pat on the back that if you can stay above the fray and make sure that you don't let your own ego hurt your team by giving up 2 points, then you're showing an unbelievable sign of maturity. And so either our guys didn't get caught or they didn't do it, but we encourage them just to stay above all that stuff. And I don't know what he said or what he did, but the officials obviously felt like, but part of it too is like, we talked to Will Cheddar about it a lot. He's been in the Big Ten for a while, and so he has a reputation. The officials know him. So when he goes to the floor hard, sometimes they assume it's a splatter or a flop, right? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not, but because they've seen it so many times and they're familiar with him, they don't always call it for him, even when he gets drilled. I think that happened last year in the NCAA tournament. I felt like Texas A&M laid him out a couple times in front of the officials, and I don't know if they just decided not to call it or they just felt like he flopped, but that's kind of a byproduct of that. And obviously Solomon has a reputation of being one of the most physical, hard-nosed players around. And and so probably anything he does might be even embellished because of his previous years of playing.
I know you said you weren't necessarily an NBA guy, but you have references.
No, I'm a huge NBA guy.
Yeah,
NBA guy.
do you like the Dagno from OKC, like some of the stuff that he did? Do you ever think about your style and if it would work at the NBA? Do you have any pro aspirations?
No, I think any style is, here's what we tell our team: everything works somewhere, nothing works everywhere. So, NBA style, European style. I don't, when we initially started talking about the European style and the FIBA style, they were running like flex into ball screens, and like we ran flex in first grade. So it's like the style is good ball, but yeah, I know Coach Dagnall well. When he left Florida, I was going to Florida on staff as assistant for Coach White, and so him being a guy that wasn't he wasn't one of the main assistants, so he had a different perspective. So I called him a lot, and he was, at that time, his now wife was still in Gainesville, so he was back in town a lot and came to workouts and through the office. So I picked, early in my career, I picked his brain a lot before he was such an accomplished coach. Now I feel bad reaching out just because I know time constraints, but when he was a G League coach, we took our teams to see his teams play. He'd work guys out in the summer. He actually took one of our role guys at Florida on the blue. And so just 100 conversations with him, I've picked up something from him a lot. No, I don't really, this is all too big of, I've said it repeatedly, this is all too big of a dream. I don't think about where I could be coaching in the future. I want to win on Sunday and get better this week. But I'm not a real goal-driven guy. I haven't been since I was in my early 20s when I wanted to be a head coach at this state and do all this stuff. And then I had a wife and kids and realized, man, I want to enjoy going to work with a great team and a great staff every day. And that's really the thing that makes me happy. You know, I'm very, very simple. A great staff, team that wants to get better, and curious group that's driven to be their best. And shoot, I'm a -1, 75. You know, I'm pretty happy dude either way.
You've talked about Yaxel's confidence and willingness to shoot the three going up, and it looks very obvious now at this point. Is there ever a point where he's shooting too many? I mean, just because he's taken away from other stuff he does so well. I just wonder how that balance is, because he looks like he's shooting it really, really well.
They're worth 3 points, and so if he moves a step in, they're worth 2. We want to take what the defense gives them. If they close out aggressively, take away his 3, we want him to drive and make the right play. If that means he shoot 27 times, you know, I think that these games start to run together. I'm sorry, but I think the Villanova game is an indicator of a very bright, intelligent team as well, because they were playing us. They were face guarding 3 guys on the perimeter and playing our pick and roll 2 versus 2. And I thought Elliott got super aggressive. He took what the game gave him. And if I remember correctly, Yaxel only took 3 shots as second. You know, right now he's the runner-up in the Palm for National Player of the Year, and he takes 3 shots in a game when we were up 30 at half. I mean, I don't think there's a testament to a team's unselfishness more than that across the entire globe of basketball. But with that being said, no, we want him to take what the game gives him. We're trying to add a few things to his game that he can use against certain matchups before he needs it. But no, he's such a gifted passer. We felt like from day one he needed to shoot a lot more threes because it helps us and it helps his long-term value. And that's also, you know, we want these guys to max out as individuals after they're ready for any situation, to max out as individuals. And if he's going to play at the highest level and be able to stay at the highest level, he needs to be able to shoot 3-pointers efficiently and effectively and make the right decisions.
Yeah, Dusty, sorry to take it away from basketball just for a moment here. There's obviously been a lot going on in and around the athletic department here and in the football program. I was just wondering if you could, I mean, just your view of things, I guess some of your thoughts and anything that you can provide. Just.
You know, I to be honest, I thought you were going to ask about the school shootings. And when you put things in perspective, I'm coaching a child's game every day. There's some real life stuff happening across our planet and our globe, and I think everything, like the football stuff, there's obviously some poor decisions made across the board. It is what it is. Everyone involved is a human being, and every decision impacts other human beings. And so I pray for families that are impacted in their lives, and their children are impacted. And so I don't really have anything other than to say that. I don't have the solutions to a lot of the world's problems, but man, if we just all tried to be better human beings and better world civilians and whatnot, I think we'd all have a much greater impact. So that's really about it.
Did you meet with the team about either things happening here or some of the other things you just referenced?
Yeah, and obviously the shootings impacted one of our players, and he was shook up. And man, I felt bad that we were so focused on beating Maryland, because it's such a tough thing whenever you know that happens, and it just seems to be happening more frequently. I don't know if it is or not, but you know, a lot of times things have always happened, and there's just, with the media coverage now, it's just in front of us. But yeah, and even the stuff across campus, we're trying to, just like as parents, we're trying to help develop independent thinkers and people that look at all issues from not only their own set of glasses, but also the glasses from everyone else around. And so, yeah, we've talked about all this stuff. We have very open, honest, transparent conversations in our locker room. And I think when you have a group that loves each other and a staff that loves our players as much as we do, we want them to always be thinking short-term and long-term. So, yeah, but most of our conversations in the locker room, we like to keep them in the locker room.
A lot of tough road games on the schedule. You've played a couple tough ones already. TCU, good second half. Maryland battled back a little bit. What have you liked about those two games that kind of give you confidence knowing that there are some tough environments you'll be in going forward too?
Well, first, they presented so many different challenges, and I think a roadmap of how to navigate those same types of offenses or defenses we're going to see. But most importantly, I just think that a lot of times when you get into those tight games, certain guys can elevate their play, and then certain guys can play tighter or more conservative. And what I've seen is a group that is unflappable. They're confident. They're unafraid of failure, and so they keep their pedal to the metal and keep attacking and keep playing to win, as opposed to playing with the fear of maybe we lose this and maybe we lose that game, and what are people going to say, and all the stuff that doesn't really matter. And so that's encouraging going forward, that we didn't look like we were afraid to fail.
You talked about Yax and the unselfishness, but like Trey McKinney's a guy that's had some high, low scoring nights. I guess what's the difference between getting a young guy to buy into that compared to Yax?
You're asking the difference in getting Trey McKinney to buy into the way we play versus Yaxel. Well, number one, we recruit unselfish guys, so we try to bring in the right people in the locker room. That winning is important, development's important, and they're not always, their happiness and everything that goes with that is not derived on each game. It's not the end of the world when you play poorly, and it's not the greatest day ever when you have a good shooting night. It's just, we just stay the course, and I think it's a lot easier when everyone in your locker room's doing it, and when you choose not to and your behavior shows something different, then you stand out like a sore thumb. And right now, if a guy breaks our chain, then they're gonna stand out, because there's so much unselfishness and so much giving, and it can all change tomorrow. But as of right now, if anyone tries to break that chain, they're gonna look extremely selfish, because you have a group that's playing for themselves. I thought LJ Kaysen played maybe his best game as a Wolverine, and I don't know how many minutes he played, but it wasn't nearly enough. And so I was kind of peeking out my side of my eye to watch him on the bench, and he was engaged, he was into it, and once again, that's the cost of competing for championships and playing meaningful games. I mean, you can always go down and play for a bad team, you can transfer down a level, whatever the case, and you can get more shots and you can get more touches and your usage can be higher. So as an individual, you simply have to weigh like what's really important and where do you think ultimately can help you do what you want to do. And life after basketball is important. So if you stay the course at a place like this, usually life can be a lot better for you after, because of the education you're receiving, not just the degree, but the education of the people you're surrounded with here.
Andrew?
I usually don't preface my questions with, you probably can't answer this, but you said in the opening about, looking for things that teams have done well against you. I mean, is that just like a possession here or there that you're thinking teams might try to extrapolate and do for longer stretches? Because it just doesn't seem like anything's really worked against you guys.
I mean, yeah, obviously we haven't done well enough on the defensive glass at times, and part of it is Maryland's trade-off. They're sending 4 guys in, and so when we get it, we're able to just go make them pay for it. And so Villanova sent 1 to the glass, I felt like, and I don't know if that was schematically or their players, just the floor positioning. And so, yeah, we didn't handle post fires for 5 games, and now we're turning post fires into baskets, because those teams expose some things that maybe were blind spots for us as a staff that we took for granted that we would just be able to do. For example, Will Cheddar's foul was a great example of a guy took on a double team, They were in a cylinder, he fought it off, and then Will created more space and leverage off the ball, and then he forced them into a foul. We get 2 free throws. That would have been a turnover 3 weeks ago. So there's a lot of things like that that we're continuously working on. And once again, the enemy gets a vote, so the opponents are telling us what we need to work on a lot of times too, because our game is so complex. I mean, I was with Merez yesterday. I stole a quote from Jim Crutchfield, a legendary coach at Nova Southeastern, and he asked, "What should I do here?" And I said, "I'm gonna steal a quote from a coach I really respect. This situation will probably never ever present itself in a million years if you play basketball again. But I think this is one great option. Here's a great option. Here's a great option, and then you've got to decide on the fly which one you go with." But that's how cool our game is. That we can all watch one possession and see something completely different that could help our team. So, I want to give credit to our schedule and our opponents, because they've exposed some things that we were short-sighted with our approach.
You've talked about finding the unselfish players quite a bit, and seems like you've done that everywhere you've been. Last year's team and your previous stop. Ask you to brag on yourself a little bit. Do you think that's a talent that you have? How much credit do you give to your staff? Do you have, not to give away the secret sauce, I guess, but how do you seem to manage to do that year after year?
I think when you take a job that there's zero expectations, you can kind of go figure out who you can coach and who you can't, who you want to be around and who you don't. And so, we felt like we overachieved our first year as a staff, and majority of our staff's been together, and then we've simply just added more guys like us. And so I'm not going to pat myself on the back. It's a cumulative effort of our staff attracting the right guys, and then us not, panicking with our decision making. A lot of times in recruiting, you could be recruiting a guy, and then it comes down to the very last minute, and recruiting's quicker now, and the conversations are different. They sound a lot different than they sounded throughout. And then you can either just say yeah, and get it done, or you can say no, this is not what this has been up until now. Everything seems to be changing, and you go in another direction, and now you've got to recruit for another 5 months because you didn't fill that position. So there's a lot that goes into it, but we've been very, very stubborn with bringing in guys that we want to be around every single day, and we want to coach, and we feel like they'll appreciate the way we coach, because everyone does it differently. Like, look, like I said, everything works somewhere, nothing works everywhere, and so we've just really bought into trying to find, there's a baseline of talent, obviously, but bought into guys that have a certain background history that we think will fit with the way we do things, because we're not perfect either. We know what our blind spots are, and we try to make sure we bring in guys that can cover our blind spots also.
And I guess real quick, how rare is it that you would find that formula with Elliott, Merez, Adai? Yeah, like, that just seems like a perfect storm a little bit to get guys like that talented, that good, that fit together that well.
Well, I think it's, once again, it's the shared sacrifice. If two of them aren't doing it, it doesn't look like this. If Elliott wasn't so unselfish, then some other guys would be more selfish. But it's that shared sacrifice. It's like I said, it's just hard to break that chain when everyone's doing it. And I think we're open, honest, and transparent in the recruiting process with what we think it will look like. It can always change, but we try to be very, very honest with painting the picture that we see in the future. Because coaches say it all the time, players determine playing time. I think we almost always have a good idea of who we're going to play from the next game to the next season, whatever the case, based on our years of experience in coaching and what we value. And so it's not lying to the guys beforehand and setting expectations too high. We actually try to underpromise and deliver for the most part. But a lot of it is just your great places too. FAU, Michigan, they're awesome places that a lot of people want to be at, and so we've selected what we feel like are the right guys, right families, the right support systems, all of it. It's not just us, and it's not just them. It's the whole nest.
Okay, Coach, that's gonna do it.
Thank you guys.
Is it possible?